Well, according to Kristi Noem, Trump has saved hundreds of thousands of American lives by blowing up the boats off the coast of Venezuela. Watch this.
You've saved hundreds of millions of lives with the cocaine you've blown up in the Caribbean.
Really? Hundreds of thousands of American lives have been saved from cocaine that Trump apparently has blown up that is coming from Venezuela. Tom Cotton saying something kind of similar. He's saying nearly 400 Arkansans were killed by drug overdoses last year alone. At least he's not saying 400,000 Arkansans. Kristi Noem there is just exaggerating the number. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been saved, she says. Not even that many people die of drug overdoses every year. But nonetheless, she says hundreds of thousands of lives have been saved from cocaine, which is not the same as fentanyl. But nonetheless, but at least Tom Cotton doesn't say that. He says 400 Arkansans were killed by drug overdoses last year alone. President Trump's strike against narco-terrorists who are flooding our nation with drugs are both legal and necessary, he says. But the thing is fentanyl is not coming from Venezuela. Fentanyl is coming through Mexico. And watch this heated debate on CNN. I normally don't even agree with Ana Navarro, but here she is actually making sense, believe it or not.
Completely invested in getting Maduro out. We've got 1/4 of the arsenal of the U.S. Navy parked off the coast of Venezuela.
Protecting American interests.
What is the American interest? Oil?
Drugs pouring into this country and killing us?
Most drugs do not come through Venezuela. Then why aren't you bombing Mexico?
So we closed the southern border, and that did a really good job. Stop. That's a ridiculous argument.
No, you stop.
No, that's a ridiculous argument.
No, you're the one being ridiculous.
The president you advocated for 4 years, Joseph R. Biden, allowed our border to be open.
Gaslight me.
I'm not gaslighting. Did Joe Biden let in tons and tons and tons? Well, tell that to the families of fentanyl families who have died.
No fentanyl comes from Venezuela.
It comes from the southern border to the point you made.
Mexico.
Hold on a second.
If your argument that drugs are not coming from Colombia or Venezuela to America.
Oh, I am going to argue that no fentanyl is coming from Venezuela.
Talk to the DEA.
No, you are wrong, and you are lying to the American people. You are part of the fabricating a narrative that doesn't exist.
Hold on a second.
Well, your day job is The View, so let's talk about that.
And you have no day job. You just lost yours.
Harrison, you are wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Yes, you're wrong. Because you just mixed up a whole bunch of stuff there.
No, I didn't.
You know that stubborn ache that never quite goes away? The one that ice, heat, or pain pills barely touch? What if you could target it at the cellular level instead of just numbing it? That's exactly what TheraBlue was designed to do. TheraBlue is a next-generation pain-relieving peptide gel that works deeper than the skin's surface. Powered by Aqua Molecular Delivery technology, it delivers peptides and botanicals directly into muscle tissue for legit, lasting relief. Its hero ingredient is a copper peptide that promotes collagen synthesis, reduces inflammation, and helps accelerate repair. NAD Plus restores cellular energy to aid recovery, while Methylene Blue protects your mitochondria and supports endurance. Natural extracts like MSM, turmeric, white willow bark, arnica, and ginger soothe inflammation, while menthol, camphor, and eucalyptus oil deliver instant cooling relief. It absorbs fast and leaves your skin refreshed, not greasy. Apply a thin layer, massage until absorbed, and let your body experience lasting recovery. Get 15% off by visiting twc.health/Kim and use code Kim to move freely again with TheraBlue. Yeah, he did. I mean, it is true. And she makes a good point. Ana Navarro makes a good point. Why aren't we bombing Mexico? I mean, that is where the drugs are coming in from. Fentanyl that is killing people is coming through. It's coming through the border. It's not coming from Venezuela on a boat, that's for sure. Venezuela doesn't even register, even in Trump's administration. When they do their assessments of drug overdoses and drugs coming in through the country, coming into the country, Venezuela doesn't even get listed as a country where drugs are coming from. It's just now they suddenly have this narrative that drugs are coming from Venezuela. This is the new weapons of mass destruction. And a lot of people on the right are surprisingly falling for this. I mean, many people on the right said, oh, okay, I was dumb for falling for weapons of mass destruction. And then here they are stupidly doing it again, falling for weapons of mass destruction. Yes, do we have a drug problem of drugs coming into our country? Yes. But are they coming in from Venezuela? No. So this is the same as, make this make sense. It's the same as 9/11 was done by a bunch of Saudis right? But we invaded Iraq. Oh, okay. So this is the same stupid logic that is going on here. Drugs are coming in from Mexico and Colombia and other parts of South America, but mostly through Mexico. But we're going to invade or topple or destabilize Venezuela. We're going to wage war on Venezuela when the drugs are coming in through Mexico, right? Because we're just that dumb. Because we know, and they know that we're that dumb. They know that we're going to believe it. They could say weapons of mass destruction, no evidence that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, but we're going to go after Iraq, even though it was a bunch of Saudis that did 9/11. It's just, it's unreal that people are gobbling this up. And it's because they're looking at it, they're saying, yeah, but people are dying. Americans are being poisoned. This is a weapon of mass destruction. Drugs are the new weapons of mass destruction. They're saying these drugs are causing all of these Americans to die. About 100,000 overdoses in the United States per year. It has gone down in 2023, there was 105,000 drug overdoses. And in 2024, it went down to 80,000. So that was 20,000. That was actually quite a big decrease. They're saying there's like a 27% decrease from the peak of 2022, went down in 2024. People are trying to give Trump the credit for that. He didn't start bombing these boats until September of 2025. He wasn't the president of the United States in 2024 at all. Joe Biden was the president of the United States. What was Joe Biden doing in 2024 that lowered our drug deaths from 100,000 down to 80,000? What did Joe Biden do in 2024 that decreased the drug overdoses 27%? I would like to know. Of course, nobody wants to give Joe Biden any credit for it. And maybe he did nothing, probably did nothing. But nonetheless, something happened that caused, and they're trying to figure it out. But unfortunately, this summer, the drug deaths went up again. So they went down and we're saying, wow, we saw a 27% decrease. That's amazing. And then, because it's true, so drug overdoses went down. But then this summer, they went back up. That was under Trump. Why did they go up? The border was closing. We weren't, so if we actually done something about the border, but the drug overdoses were still going up, people are obviously still having access to the drugs. Where are they getting the drugs? How are they getting the drugs? What types of drugs are they getting? And if you shut down the border and you've got a bunch of people who are doing drugs, you've got this just ripe for the taking, an entire cohort of people who want to buy drugs. So you've got all these people that can make money off of the sale of drugs to these people who are just a ready and willing audience wanting to buy your drugs. Well, if you shut down one cartel and one drug manufacturer, what do? You create a new one. So maybe what is happening? Are they being created now here in the United States? Are we going to start bombing warehouses here in the United States, taking them out, saying, well, you're now the new drug lords and we're waging war on the narco terrorists? Of course not, because this isn't about any of that. This has nothing to do with that at all. And Trump is taking credit because Kristi Noem is a total idiot. And she says, well, you've saved hundreds of thousands of American lives from cocaine overdoses? No, synthetic opioids are nearly 76% of all drug overdose deaths are opioids. So fentanyl in particular is involved in 73,000 of the deaths in 2023 out of the 100,000. It was the main driver of overdose fatalities. So that is, do people die of cocaine overdose? I'm trying to actually find out if cocaine causes, I don't even know. Okay, so cocaine does kill people. I wasn't really sure because I don't really know a whole lot about cocaine, but so I guess in 2023, they accounted for 30,000. So it was fentanyl and then cocaine was the remaining cause of overdose. And where is cocaine coming in to the United States from? Let's look it up. Cocaine coming into the United States, where is that coming from? Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru. So cocaine enters the United States primarily from South American countries, key sources being Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru, but we're not bombing them. It is then trafficked through a network of transit countries, including Mexico, before reaching the United States. So the majority of cocaine smuggling originates from Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru, and then it comes in through Mexico as the transit country. Okay. And fentanyl. Let's look at fentanyl. Where is fentanyl coming into the United States from? Fentanyl is trafficked in the United States from Mexico. So Mexico and China are the primary source countries for fentanyl-related substances trafficked directly in the United States. That's according to the DEA website. I think that, I don't even think it's really coming in from China. I think what they're saying is that China provides the materials to make fentanyl, and then it gets trafficked in through Mexico. So it's kind of, the idea has been it's been both China and Mexico's fault because China provides the materials, the building blocks for the fentanyl. But it's not coming from Venezuela. But so this is weapons of mass destruction all over again. And we should be fully aware of what's happening here. Because what they're trying to do is gaslight us into supporting a regime change and war in Venezuela. That's what this is. I'm surprised Tulsi Gabbard hasn't resigned from the cabinet. What a coward. Honestly, Tulsi, you're a coward. You should be resigning by now. You're against regime change. You actually sat there and campaigned on being against regime change your entire career. But now here you are sitting in a cabinet, smiling away about a regime change that this government is trying to do. Blatantly on your watch. Where are you? That is not why people were supporting you. And people are now, now you're just going to be a fraud because you should be speaking up saying we shouldn't be committing any sort of regime change in Venezuela. It's just going to result in disaster like it does every single time. Here's Laura Ingraham. What does she have to say about that? Her guest says, oh, no, this is great. This is what we should be doing.
Ooh, here to react, Jason Redmond, former Navy SEAL. Jason, great to see you tonight. The Democrats seem to be fretting, to put it mildly, about the welfare of these narco-terrorists. Very worried that they're just workaday boat guys that are just hired hands, and essentially, how dare we take them out?
Laura, it's good to see you again. And yeah, it's kind of fascinating watching all this. Individuals who have never been to war. I think there's an interesting thing that's been happening. I think it started to happen in the war on terror, this blurring of the rule of law and the law of armed conflict. And the reality is, in the law of armed conflict, if we designate individuals as enemy combatants, which is what we did by designating these people as narco-terrorists, the individuals they're using are combatants. And under the law of armed conflict, the rules of engagement that have been set down, these individuals become a clear and present threat. We have the ability to go after them. It's fascinating to me, the individuals would also say, oh, well, these guys aren't a threat. I frequently saw in both Iraq and Afghanistan, both the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were very good at shooting at us, putting weapons down, and then moving without a weapon. So to say they were no longer a threat. Well, they would then move to an additional fighting position, and they would pick up a weapon and engage us again. The individuals on these boats, I guarantee they have weapons. The narco-terrorists aren't going to allow their drugs to go out there without individuals protecting them.
Oh, so now we can just go after anybody who owns a gun. Oh, okay. So if you idiots watching this thinking that, well, no, he's right, Kim, and we got to be able to do this, and you're the same ones that are holding on to a bunch of guns saying that those Democrat loons aren't coming after my guns anytime soon. Oh, yes, they are. They're going to use this exact argument in order to take your guns because now you're a threat. They can take you out. You are a terrorist. Democrats can absolutely use this line of argument, which they will because Republicans are too short-sighted to understand that every single tool they hand over will be used against them. Just wait for AOC to become President AOC. And one day when she does, she's going to say, you know what, anybody who's armed in the United States is a potential threat, and we have every right to shoot them on sight just for having a weapon. Just for owning a gun, we can come into your house and shoot you. We've labeled you a terrorist. We can come into your house. You own guns. Well, you might use those guns against us. We'll shoot you. That is going to be the justification because you've allowed it. You've championed it. You've, in fact, wanted this. You wanted this. And so this is what's going to happen to you in the future. This is how it always works. But this whole idea that, well, we've labeled them, and again, we labeled them terrorists and combatants, so therefore they are, even though they haven't shot a single bullet at any U.S. armed forces. Not a single bullet has been shot, but nonetheless, these guys are terrorists, and we've labeled them, so now it's legal. Okay, well, again, when President AOC is coming after you, once you're labeled, it's legal. You just remember that. You championed it. You wanted it. You're the one who asked for it. Totally and completely crazy. And Dan Crenshaw kind of says the same thing, like, well, these guys are now talking about the survivors of the boat that were clinging onto the shipwreck. And Dan Crenshaw, and this guy, this buffoon who's on Laura Ingraham is sitting here saying, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, when I was in, where did he say, Iraq or Afghanistan, where you're actually in an armed conflict, you're actually in theater, and you're sitting there and you say, the guy, he could just pick up another gun and shoot at us, right? These guys are not picking up guns and shooting at you. So then the thinking is, well, yeah, but they could get the drugs. And this is, well, let me play this one for you first. This is Stephen Miller on Fox saying, now they've got a new excuse about blowing up these guys on the boat. Now they're saying, the survivors. Now they're saying, yeah, but they were essentially what this guy's trying to argue. They were picking up the weapon being drugs, because now we've said drugs are a weapon of mass destruction. They were going after those drugs again. And this is what Stephen Miller had to say. So now apparently Pete Hegseth is justified in blowing away the victims because the survivors were actually still trying to save the drugs, and the drugs are a weapon of mass destruction.
Tonight, new information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the two survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice.
This backs up the entire second strike.
Yes, I mean, it just doesn't get more crystal clear than that. The mission is take out the boat, stop the drugs, keep this vessel and its cargo from reaching our shore using lethal means. And our amazing military, the heroes of the United States Armed Forces, did exactly that. President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, and this entire government are committed to finally using our military to defend our people, our borders, our family, our culture, our history, our heritage, to defend the United States. We're not going off running around the Middle East trying to build democracies in caves and deserts and in distant sands that have never known democracy. We're using the military to protect American security, American prosperity, American lives right here where we live, where our children live.
No, that's what they told us about Iraq, too, and Afghanistan and everywhere else. It was, we're protecting Americans. This is about America. Even though we're doing it in the far-off land, this is totally about America. So wait, let me get this straight. So he's saying, no. So they're totally justified in blowing up the survivors of the boat wreckage because they were climbing back on board the boat. So you got two guys hanging, they've just survived the boat being blown up. The boat is no longer operational, okay? So they're hanging onto the side of this wreckage. They then climb into the boat. We're now saying that, well, they were trying to save the cocaine and then what, swim it to America? Are we that stupid? That's what they were going to do? They were going to take that cocaine and swim it to America. So we had every right to blow them up. I mean, how stupid could you possibly be? I mean, just completely and utterly dumb. Representative Luna here says, Obama authorized over 500 airstrikes and the press didn't bat an eye. But the moment an admiral executes a lawful strike package with solid intel to protect Americans from narco-terrorists, suddenly everyone wants to virtue signal. The political mental gymnastics from people who refuse to think critically is astounding. It's coming from a total idiot. I'll say it plainly. I will always back the men who step up to defend this country against those trying to murder our citizens. Well done, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Thank you for protecting Americans. Oh, our country's run by morons, unfortunately. We just have a bunch of idiots in office. How do these people get elected? I mean, are we really, do we not have anybody better? Are we really this hard up that we just have to continue getting these people? And or are they actually intelligent people? And they're just, once they get in office, completely threatened, or they use some sort of brainwashing tool on them. I don't know. Like maybe that's what the whole Havana syndrome was. It was actually just a brainwashing kind of brain waves that were getting in there, just turn all their brains into mush. Because that might actually, maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's what's happened. It gets better. So, okay, you could say, okay, it's about the war on drugs. The war on drugs. Drugs are the new weapons of mass destruction. Fine. And Trump is saving millions of lives because he's waging war on the weapon of mass destruction. But that's not what they know. This is not about that. This has nothing to do with that. And instead, Marco Rubio is now going to tell you that actually, the reason why we need to go after Venezuela is because Hezbollah, he says.
The Venezuelan regime is a source of instability in the entire region. Over 8 million Venezuelans have flooded into neighboring countries as a result of the regime's activities within their own country, including into the United States. They also happen to be the foothold of Iran. That's not spoken about enough. Iran, its IRGC, and even Hezbollah has a presence in South America, and one of their anchor presence, especially for the Iranians, is inside of Venezuela. So
oh, my goodness. Regime. Okay. So it's Hezbollah, and that's why we have to go after them. Caroline Levitt, she then goes on and says here, she's the press secretary, she says, President Trump is a champion in the fight for Venezuelan freedom. Okay, so if it wasn't about the drugs, which are the new weapons of mass destruction, then it's about, well, Hezbollah, we got to stop the terrorists, because apparently they are now like all about Venezuela. And then, no, it's about the freedom for Venezuelan people. So you see, they're just throwing anything they possibly can in order to get you to go along with this. That's all it is. This is just, what can we possibly say to you? Which is it? Which resonates with you and your lizard brain? Is because that's what they're thinking. So we have to not have lizard brains, right? So they'd say to us, okay, let's try this. It's weapons of drugs. Drugs killed your family members. Weapons of mass destruction. We're going to stop the people that shoved cocaine in the nose of your kid and also injected fentanyl into their veins. We're going to go after those people, even though, unfortunately, George Floyd took the drugs himself. Same, a lot of people, they take the drugs themselves. We have a different problem. We got to solve it a different way. Why are Americans wanting to take the drugs in the first place? Sure, there is an issue with the drugs becoming more potent and more deadly, and we'd prefer them to use drugs that are not so potent and deadly. And so, yes, there is a need to absolutely stop the drugs from coming into our country. But we could do that by protecting our borders and going after the people inside of our country who are allowing the smuggling to happen. Because it's not just these narco-terrorist boats. It's actually Americans inside of America, people inside of our agencies that are allowing the flow of drugs to come in. And those are the people we should be going after because they're traitors to their own countrymen. That's who you should be going after. But instead, because that's not what it's about, so it doesn't matter. Instead, it's about weapons of mass, it's about just going after Venezuela and toppling Venezuela so we can get the oil. It's just like Iraq. It's no different. Same thing. Different. Instead of babies, incubators, it's like, okay, what can we say to you to get you to go for this? Weapons of mass destruction. Does that work? So drugs, narco-terrorists. Does that work? Okay, no, not on you. All right. Freedom for people. You have a bleeding heart. You're a liberal. Freedom for people. Is that working on you? No? Hezbollah's there. Is that working on you? Okay, pretty soon we're going to have the incubators, babies being thrown out of incubators argument. That is coming up next, I'm sure. The next thing is going to be children and being thrown out of incubators or something along those lines. That's what they're going to say. It's unbelievable. We keep falling for it. I can't believe it. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.